Hi and welcome. I am Rita Goodrow, founder of the company Rita Made Me Do It and the free community women's business garden, which provides education and community events to women entrepreneurs across the globe. And one of my favorite features is my noontime knowledge, lunch and learn. And today I've got Karen McKee with me. We're going to be talking about a whole many number of topics, but mainly resiliency, specifically resiliency in relationships. And so I'm really excited to have Karen here and excited to have you join us and listen. And before I get into it, I want to let everybody out there know how I know Karen. So many of you know that I have a mentor named Paul Brunson. And a little over a year ago, Paul Brunson called me and said, girl, I was talking to this girl, Karen, about you. And I said, you two need to meet. You two need to have a meeting. Karen runs a fabulous conference down in Barbados. You're a speaker, but I also think that your audiences will really benefit one another. And Paul is a connector. So he's like, I want you guys to connect. So Karen and I got on the phone and we were just chatting away forever. And I was like, I have to know this woman. I have to know what she's about. And while we were talking, and you're going to hear today about me speaking at a conference that she runs this year, I had to go to the conference last year just to see what all the buzz was about. And it was amazing. And I just say that because I vouched for Karen. I know her personally. I know what she does. This is somebody that I'm putting in front of my audience that I trust. And I want you to know that so that you can trust her inherently too from the get-go. And I'm really excited to have Karen here today. This is the first time that I've done a video like this for Lunch and Learn, an interview. So I'm really excited to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you, Rita.
So why don't you introduce yourself to my audience? Tell everybody who you are and what you do and kind of what got you to the path, what got you to what you're doing now? What was your path of getting to where you are?
Okay. All right. So I am Karen McKee. I'm the producer of Live Again, the Barbados Experience. And wow, the path here, it has not been really clear. It's not really a clear-cut path, but I can tell you that as far as entrepreneurship is concerned, I think that was something that was always on the inside of me. And like even when I came out of school, I wanted to do some work like during the summertime. And instead of like going to work at a bank or something like that, I started off selling Avon. And that is like a small business within itself, And but it just seemed as though ever since then, I've gotten involved in sales, for example, sales and marketing. And then that led to me starting a family business as well, to doing food distribution as well. Did I always stay in entrepreneurship? Not necessarily. There were times that I came out and I probably did like the 9-to-5 and stuff, but entrepreneurship never left me, right? So actually starting Live Again, the Barbados Experience, that came after doing a 9-to-5 for a little bit, but feeling that pull to get back into entrepreneurship, get back into fulfilling that dream and fulfilling that purpose. So I think, like I said before, it has always been there. It has always been there, so it's something that I can't seem to get away from.
So what is it that you love about entrepreneurship?
I think for me, for entrepreneurship, it is the whole thing of being creative, and it doesn't seem as though like I can see things that are not right and not think of a solution. So to me then, in a nutshell, entrepreneurship allows me to provide solutions to problems that I see.
Oh, I love that, providing solutions, right? I always, and that's when you can see things like that, that's one step closer to being successful as an entrepreneur, right? When you realize you're solving problems as opposed to just selling a product or selling a service, right? You're solving a problem. So what specifically led you to create this? And I will tell my audience, I'm going to use the word conference. This is not a conference.
Right.
This is an experience.
Right.
But to give you an idea of what kind of umbrella it would fall under, I think it aligns more with a conference and a workshop or a half-day intensive or anything like that. But it is, we're going to talk a lot about it. It's a big, full experience, and it's called Live Again, the Barbados Experience. So Karen, tell us a little bit about it and tell us what compelled you to take that step to create an experience like this.
Yeah, well, it started out with me. I had a mentor, a mentor who was really, really awesome, and she passed away, and it was kind of hard for me to kind of deal with. And to start with, I don't handle loss very well, and I remember talking to her daughter at the time, and telling her about like some of the things that I was kind of wrestling with her loss. And I remember her saying to me, well, one of the ways that you can kind of work through it maybe would be to others what she was to you. And I said, well, that's perfect. That's so true. A lot of young women need guidance. And she was an older lady providing guidance to me as a younger person. So I said, you know what? And I've always had it in my heart, even like when I worked like within the school system, it always worked out that it seems like the young adult females were the ones who always gravitated towards me. So I said, well, this would be perfect then for me to work with young women. So I actually did a mini retreat in 2015, and that was the very first thing that I did for young women, and it was called Diamond in the Rough. So we went to Orlando. We stayed in a nice 5-star resort there and everything. And the next year I was going to do it, but then I was approached by this person who asked me, "Have you ever thought about doing something like this, but for older people?" I said, "Well, no, not really." But then we looked into it and saw that it was a market. I said, but I can't call it Diamond in the Rough. I would have to give it another name. So I came up with Live Again. The person came up with the Barbados Experience because we talked about doing it in Barbados. So we kind of like put those two together, and that's how we came up with Live Again, the Barbados Experience.
Oh, that's such an entrepreneur way of thinking. When somebody says, "Have you ever thought about this?" The minute you know somebody's interested, you're like, "No, but I will do it. I will make it happen." So you're from Barbados, yes?
Yes, I am. And I think that too, like one of the other things that made me use Barbados as a location was, I remember when I was a brand manager, and when we had to do, like, we had profit centers, and when we had to do our budgets, like our marketing budgets for the following year, I would take my whole team of salesmen and merchandisers, and I would take them out of the office, and we would go to a location, and we would eat, and we would just relax, and we would have fun. And we were able to do our marketing plans there, and they were able to be so creative. And I thought about that, and I recognized when I moved them from out of the regular environment into somewhere that was relaxing and everything, we became more creative. So I was able to go into the boardroom with marketing plans that I could stand by, because this was something that was done when they were so relaxed, so creative, and we came up with something that worked for us as a team. So I thought that was something that I could borrow from.
Oh yeah, I love that. So I was talking to somebody, it was a while ago, a couple of months ago, but they said, I don't get it. I don't get the point of a retreat. Right? I don't understand, like, why just go away and I don't need to do that. And what people answered, what people were responding, including myself, was when you get away from your day-to-day routine, when you get away from all of the normal distractions, on being on autopilot, going through your day, we get to a point where we don't even have to think about our day, right?
Exactly.
We're just kind of doing it. When you remove yourself from that and you have to pay attention to what's around you,
that's right,
and what's going, you recognize things, and your mind is working in a way that it hasn't worked in a while, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So then the Live Again, right? Because it was for an older demographic than Diamond in the Rough. So tell me a little bit about why Live Again? Why not just live, right? Which is where I think this topic of resiliency starts coming in. But I mean, we're living. So why do I have to live again, Karen? Why do I have to do that again?
Yeah, because a lot of times, in some cases, we are living, we think that we are living, but we really are just existing.
Yes. Oh, yes. I love that. Like, that's a tweetable moment, guys, right? Hashtag, Karen McKee, right? Like, hashtag Live Again, tweet that tweet. That's so true.
Yeah. So the thing about it is, like, I've found, like, even when I compared myself to when I was younger, like, I took risk. I took chances. Like, whenever I had a business idea or a thought or an entrepreneurial idea, there was nothing in me at that point that ever said it would fail. Nothing. Everything in me said that it would work. Everything in me said that, and you know what? I would go after it, and it will always work. But somehow, as we get older, we get a little bit more cautious.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, we get very, very cautious. And that boldness that we had when we were younger, we kind of tame that down. And then we don't have that boldness to step out and to go forward. We start thinking about what if this, what if that, and then the fear comes. So we're not really living our best life. We're not really living the best that we can live. So we then get into a pattern of mere existence. So the message is really this: you don't have to be merely existing. You don't merely have to be very passive. You can actually live life again, live abundantly, live that way again.
Yes. I love that. And it makes sense then, right, to go offsite, out of your routine, out of your normal, mind way of operating, to have that moment to kind of examine what does that mean, right, to live again. So for many, entrepreneurship is a path that they choose that allows them to live again, right? They leave their corporate job, they do something new. Answer for me this, like, do your family and friends understand and support what you do? Because we're gonna be getting into relationships, and we're talking about entrepreneurship and living again. Tell me about the support system that you have in place as an entrepreneur, because it seems like it goes 50-50. Sometimes people have a great support system, and sometimes people have family and friends that are like, I don't really know that that's gonna work. Like, how have you found that in your path to building this conference? Do people understand it? Do they support you?
Yeah, well, my closest family, really and truthfully, would be my kids. My son and my daughter, and they have been tremendous in terms of supporting my dream. In terms of me being able to communicate with them freely. That's the one thing that I really, really pride myself in with them: the ability to be open with them, right? And them likewise with me, So it was easy for me to tell them what was on my heart. And my daughter, she actually was great. She was a great help as well too. She was the one who did the website both years, right?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's great. Yeah.
So we got great comments about the website. She was the one who did that. My son, he is more like the counselor type. But he's great when it comes to encouragement. He is great with encouragement. So he was very, very encouraging and listens very, very well. But they were all for it, all for it. They ask a lot of questions and everything, and challenge me sometimes in some areas to think about different things as well. And my niece, some of you guys might have met her in Barbados, but my niece Joy,
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Young, but oh my goodness, she was really a help. Auntie, do you need help with this? Auntie, do you need help with that? Really, really good. So I'm really grateful. Like Joy created the logos.
Oh, wow.
That's great. Logos that people love.
You've got a little family business going on here.
And just to show you how connected and how supportive, I called Joy and I said to Joy, I need a logo. I don't know what it is going to look like. I said, but all I can tell you, these are the colors that I want. I want something that speaks about life. I want something to show life. And, you do some stuff, you send it to me, I'll take a look. The very first thing that she sent, it was like, that's it right there, So yeah, very, very supportive and very, very helpful. And like you said, some people don't get that. So that is really a blessing for me.
So what would you say as some advice to people that might be around a family, but maybe they have a spouse that doesn't really understand what they do, or they have, and usually that comes out of caring, right? We're a little worried for people. We want them to succeed, and we have fear for other people. But what would you say for people that don't have such a robust support system built into their family? What's a tip or two that you can give them?
Okay, so what I would say is that I do believe that even if you don't get it right there, immediately there, you will get it. As long as you know that this is a dream that's on the inside of you, and this is purpose, trust me, you will get it. God always seems to provide someone, put someone out in the way, right? And in some real miraculous kinds of ways. So I'm going to say, don't be mad at your loved ones. Don't be mad at family members. And you're right, Rita. Sometimes it is just about caring for us. That they become fearful of what can happen. Entrepreneurship is really a big risk, right?
It's a big risk. It's a huge risk.
Yeah, you're not working with anybody's budget. right?
You're usually working with like the family savings account. Right? Yeah.
Right. So understandably, they will be concerned, right? And they will want the best for you and stuff. So they will want you to be a cautious kind of thing. But so I would say don't let it be a point of disagreement, right? Just be understanding, but just be open to help when help comes.
Oh, I love those 2 points, right? Be understanding, because a lot of times we'll get defensive, right? And we'll get on the defensive and we'll kind of feel attacked. But if you're open and understanding, right, then maybe you can find the gratitude in that actually and find the blessing in it and move up. And then the being unattached to how the support comes to you, because it will come, right? So have you, we've talked about this before, but have you had a relationship strained yourself? So you've had this great support system within your immediate family, but let's be honest, when we start down the path of entrepreneurship, who we attract, who we're attracted to really does change as we go through changes, right? And I'm not so concerned about the specifics of what happened within the relationship, but have you had a relationship that was strained? And if so, how did you personally handle the impact that had on you and navigate through that?
And yes, I did have a situation like that where this person was really a dear friend of mine, person that I loved and really, really loved. And but it was hard for them to understand. It was hard to them to understand the nature of what I do, And entrepreneurship does that, right? And sometimes people are just comfortable with what they know, and what is new sometimes could be hard, right? And sometimes because too of the developmental nature of the conference, it is very developmental. It is still in its baby stages.
Yeah.
Right? So it is hard for a person to really see the obvious rewards, the tangible ones, right? Unless you actually attended the conference. So this person had never attended the conference to see what the conference is like. So it is just going off of just hearing about it, right? And there was, and because this is like a baby to me, I kind of felt like, okay, if this person, and this thing is on the inside of me, this is now a part of me. So I kind of felt like, okay, this person does not understand me, right? And but like you said, because of the love that is there, right? Because of on both sides, right? This is not something that I would want to make as a disagreement. So my thing is to kind of try to separate the two until that person is kind of ready, right? Yeah. Ready to be able to understand, ready to be able to look and see what it really is. But on the other hand, too, it's not about readiness, because you can't force a person to be in that place of readiness. You just have to wait them out.
I like that, though. I like the loving and the understanding and acceptance of where somebody else is, right? You're asking somebody to accept where you are. Right. So you should really love and accept where somebody else is on that path too. And another thing you said that I really love, and this is going to tie into something we were talking about in the Women's Business Garden, was sometimes you have to invite people in to experience what you're doing when it's a family or a friend, and you really want them to understand. Invite them in and share it. All too often I hear entrepreneurs saying, oh, but I'm not going to talk to my friends and family about what I do. And I don't want them to have to hear about all of that. Absolutely. And I don't want to have them, have to be part of that. They're my friends and family, and my business is over here. And while I'm not saying go sell your family all the time, everything you're doing, sometimes opening the door and saying, I want you to come experience something, right, makes them feel like they're a part of it. And I think too often we're reluctant to do that. So both, right, are very important.
Yeah, I agree. That's right.
Well, so the theme of this year's conference, of this year's Live Again the Barbados Experience, is creating resilient relationships, which is why I started focusing on relationships. But why is that such an important topic, to create a whole experience around the resiliency of a relationship?
Yeah, relationships are the building blocks. Right. And we cannot escape relationships. It doesn't matter where we go. The example that I always give is, even if we live alone, And so a lot of people prefer not to be in a romantic relationship with somebody else. They prefer to live alone that way. Like I've seen these memes showing how I sleep,
Yeah.
that I'm single and no one is cheating on me and this kind of stuff. And they're really funny, right? But even with that, you still cannot escape relationships. You go to work. So you're going to have a relationship with the people that you work with, okay? You own your own business. So you're going to have relationships with the people that work for you and even with your business itself, okay? Because the business is really an extension of you as well, too.
Yes.
So you can't get away from the relationships at all. It's the building block.
And so this particular conference is focusing on a lot of different relationships, right?
Yes.
So especially as a business owners, women in the Women's Business Garden, people start thinking about relationships in business as potential clients or current clients or mentors maybe, or kind of within, a virtual assistant, an employee, something like that. But relationships as a whole, right, are more than just with other people. I mean, you have your romantic, you have your family, right? But you have a relationship with yourself, right? You are everywhere you go, right?
Exactly.
You can't get away from you. So you have a relationship with yourself, you have a relationship with money, you have a relationship with time, right?
Yes.
There's a lot, there are a lot. I mean, it really is the foundational piece of everything, right? So how do you feel then that being resilient in these relationships can help you? Let's talk about from the point of view of a business owner, right? Some people go, well, my love life, what does that have to do, right, with my business over here? I don't need to go to a conference that's going to get me thinking about, my mom or my love life to be able to be a good business owner.
Yeah, and you're right. The thing about us as women, we are highly emotional. And we find it very, very difficult to disconnect. Okay. And let's face it, a lot of people, some people, it may not be so, but a lot of people, if things are not going good in their romantic relationship, it can affect everything else, all the other relationships around them. So like, for example, a wife, let's say, for example, who's upset because she just found out that her husband is cheating. And then one of the kids come to ask for something and then she snaps at the kid. The kid didn't do anything wrong, right? But because of what was going on in the romantic, that has now come over, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it can happen in business too as well. You come into work and you're having these issues that are at home and you've not learned how to separate them. And so you come into work and your employee just come to ask a question just because they just don't know or they just don't understand. And then you start thinking, oh, but that's something that you should know, and your response is very different from if you did not have that situation going on.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And that's why with clients, right? Well, prospective clients, one of the first things I ask them when they're like, Rita, I want you to help me build a successful business. I'm like, well, tell me, how are your family relationships?
Right.
How is your romantic relationship? Is there a secret you're keeping from anybody? Is there anything that's going to take away your mental energy?
Exactly.
Right, from this? And that's something that, and then working into the mindset piece of everything, which is, what is your mindset around money and your relationship with it?
Right.
What is your mindset about time and your relation? And then how do you feel about yourself and the value that you have and that you're offering? Because if you don't feel good about you, nobody else is going to feel good about you, right?
Yes.
If you're not loving and taking care of money, money's not going to love and take care of you, right? So it's people are always like, mindset, I just want to learn how to go get a client. And what I'll have to say is, if you don't address the mindset, you're never going to get a client, right? So
or you may get the client, but then you may not keep the client.
You might not keep it, or it won't go the way you want, or maybe it will, but it won't be consistent. It won't
Exactly.
it won't be something you can repeat, right?
Right.
And so that's what I love about this particular conference. The theme this year is that it really is showing we're not compartmentalized people. We don't live in compartments. One area of our life affects the other, and this is bringing them all together. Right?
Yes.
But under kind of like a bigger theme to say, hey, let's really get this in shape, right? Let's remove you from your normal environment. You can focus on this, right? So what does being resilient mean to you in a tangible way? Because it's one thing to say, oh yeah, I'm resilient, I just bounced back up, right? But like tangibly, what does being resilient mean to you?
Well, for me, it is all about being able to stand, oh my goodness, under pressure. I look at these last two conferences that we've had, and really and truthfully, based on a lot of what was going on around me, they should never have happened. Never have happened. And so that is the nature of resilience. And it is a mindset as well too. You know, it really is a mindset as well. And understanding that when these negative things come, okay, the main thing is understanding that it doesn't have to knock you out. It may knock you down for a little bit, for a little time, but it's always important to bounce back. Resilience for me is all about learning something new. I learned a lot about myself over the last couple of years, especially within the last 3 years. I learned so much about myself through the situations that I have gone through. A lot of negative situations, they look like one after the other. But coming out of them all, there's one main thing that I can tell you that I learned about myself. I learned that I was my strongest enemy.
Yeah. We can be, can't we? Boy.
Yeah, I did learn that about myself. And but the one thing that I also learned about me was I was strong, right? I was strong. I was strong in areas that I didn't even know that I was strong in. And
while you might be your own enemy, you didn't keep yourself down, right? You kept going. Yeah.
Right. You know, so resilience for me is also recognizing that need to be able to recognize interdependence also. Okay. And because life stretches us and pulls us, and there are times that, you know, we do need that help. We are in a society where we're told, oh, we got to be independent and every kind of thing like this, but it is really an impossible task to do. You know, you need somebody at some point. So we are in a place and in a position where we hate to ask for anything. I hate to hear people saying to anybody, you're needy, stop being needy. I don't like to hear that, because that statement stops a lot of people for asking for help, right? And sometimes people need genuine help, like even our young people, they need genuine help, but they don't ever want to hear anybody say to them, you're being needy, you know?
Yeah.
So there has to be an understanding that interdependence is what we're looking at. We're not looking to be dependent on anybody,
right?
But that understanding of there should be that understanding of interdependence.
I love that. I love the concept of resilience being. I think some people kind of get positive thinking wrong. They think it means you never feel sad or you never feel angry. And that's not it, right? And resiliency is definitely rooted in a positive mindset, positive thinking. But you can feel sad and you can feel angry and you can work through those emotions. But then the resiliency comes from finding that lesson and employing it, right, to keep moving forward. And then I love what you added on about knowing that part of resiliency is it doesn't have to be alone, right? You don't have to do it alone, that there's a community of people you can turn to for support. It doesn't make you weaker because you're utilizing, right, the support system that's around you to be able to do that. I love that. So, really, resilience is kind of like the title of your conference. Creating resilient relationships shows that it's proactive, right? That it's something that can be learned. It's not, oh, well, I wasn't born with the resiliency gene, so I guess I'm just destined to fail forever, right? It's like, no, it requires action. So how do you think that people out there who are wondering, well, this all sounds great in theory, but when you're in the moment, right, when you are knocked down, how can you put that into practice, or what do I need to start kind of flexing right now or training right now so when I am knocked down, I am resilient? What kinds of tangible actions can you tell people to take?
That is a perfect question. And I think that especially if you are in a situation where you are like, you know, and you recognize that you are like knocked down, I think the first thing is to be able to admit to where you are. Right? That is the first thing. Always be true to yourself, you know, and be able to say, look, I'm not in a good position right now. You know, you don't always have to be saying, oh, I'm good, everything. No. You got to be able to say, I'm not in a good position right now. Right? This is what it is. And I think that comes when we understand that what we see on television, a lot of what we see on television, on these shows, these soap operas and everything, it is not real life. It is not really real life. Or let me put it this way, they take bits and pieces out of real life and try to put them together. But there are a lot of things that are left out, okay? So I think that we have to be ready to say where we are, even if it is not in a good place. Acknowledge where we are. The other thing that I always encourage is self-awareness, personal self-awareness. And this came from me when I was working with kids with emotional problems, helping them to be able to understand their triggers, recognize their triggers. And that's the only way that you're going to be able to make any changes to help you. You got to be able to know what makes you go off, what makes you get angry. You've got to be able to know the steps as well too, because sometimes we go from one thing and we think that we go from here straight to anger. No, we've passed through some other emotions way before we got to anger. Okay. Yeah. But the anger is the one that is expressed. The anger is the one that other people see, because, we start screaming, we start throwing stuff and we start cussing and all this kind of stuff. But if you sit that person down and you get them to stop to think about, okay, what were you feeling before you got angry? And then 99.9% of the times they would be able to tell you, I was hurt.
Yeah.
I was hurt when they said this. I was hurt when they did this. So, okay, well, let's deal with the hurt then. Okay, let's deal with the hurt. That way we don't have to go all the way over to the anger, all the way over to the throwing stuff, all the way over to the same things that we will regret later. Yeah. Let's deal with the hurt. I am hurt right now. So that self-awareness is very important. I think it's an important, it is the first step. The first step that people should work on.
And it's a huge one, right? And I think that that oftentimes we're so uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, and we're so focused on the next thing that we don't want to sit with any one thing, right? And half of it is kind of the fault of, like you said, the media or personal development people out in the world that are like, if you fall down, get back up and go, right? What they don't say is you fall down, you sit with it for a while, you think about it for a while, you journal about it, you take some lessons with it, then you kind of tweak and go again. It's like, go, go, go. Don't be sad. Don't cry. Be positive. It'll all work out. And we feel almost guilty for feeling bad, right? So we're uncomfortable with it. Who wants to feel and sit with something that doesn't feel great, right? And also we're almost trained not to, right? And so that self-awareness comes from those moments of just sitting with it.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're very important moments. They're very, very important moments. And, like I usually say, like, even to people in terms of relationships, you're going through a divorce, or something like that, or separation. And just like you said, the quickest thing is to get into another relationship, but then you don't get that time to really not just heal, but to understand what just happened, right? Yeah. And to look back and to see what could you have done differently? What could you learn from all of that, And because we just want to move on and we keep that anger that we have towards the other person, not looking to see, okay, well, where I might have contributed to this, right? What could I have done differently? Moving on, what can I change in me to make me a better version of who I am, right?
No, I love that. So like, in those moments, right, the actionable takeaway is really start paying attention to your emotions, pay attention to your reactions. And when there's something that jumps out at you, whether it's good or bad, whether we will classify it positive or negative, right? Ask yourself kind of, what was the situation around it?
Right.
What were things going on in my environment? What do I have control over, right? And what does that mean for what I want going forward, right?
Yes.
That's such a great tangible takeaway. I love that. And that's right, what Barbados really helps you do. Barbados gives you, Barbados in general, right? But this conference, the Live Again, the Barbados Experience, gives you those moments, right? And this is why, guys, I was saying that this is not a conference. This is an experience that is a combination of speakers and discussions and cultural immersion and so all kinds of things, right, coming together to give you those moments of becoming self-aware, seeing how you react in different environments around different people, talking about things you would normally not talk about, thinking about things you have to think about that you normally wouldn't stop to think about. And it makes you have to go, what's my reaction to all of this, and
Yes.
who am I being? And that's what I love, right? So tell me the big part that I mean, I love the whole conference, but one of the pieces I love of this is the cultural immersion part. So part of what we did last time was we went to a local school and we read to the students, and we really were like, we weren't in the tourist part of Barbados. We were out of the resort, and a lot of conferences don't do that. You go to the hotel and you almost wonder, why am I in a different city? We never once left the Hyatt. It looks like every other Hyatt in the world, right? So why am I here? But you bring people into the community. Why do you think that that's so important as a part of your conference to have that cultural community immersion part of things?
Yeah. First of all, like Paul, my mentor, Paul Branson, our mentor, he has this idea. He loves books, right? He loves books and he loves reading to kids and stuff. And he wanted us, he wanted to go to a class and just read, right, to some infant students and stuff. And it blended in perfectly because we wanted to do something where we were reaching into the community of Barbados, right? Because we wanted to do something where we were giving into Barbados, all right? So initially we kind of thought of things like maybe doing like a walk or something like that, right? Going to like a children's home or something like that. So when he came up with the idea of reading, right, of bringing the books and reading, that was perfect. And I think that it is so important as well too, because coming into doing this conference, especially people coming from overseas, I think it really would be a crime for me to bring them to Barbados and not let them actually get to experience and explore the culture, right, of the island and the hospitality of the people, right?
It's true.
So I think
such a great country, so hospitable, hospitable.
Yeah.
It was so great. And, it really does make you have to think differently, right? I mean, so I think it was Paul, I can't remember who, but somebody said, look, for some of these students, right, it's the only time they're going to meet somebody who doesn't live in Barbados, right? They're never going to meet someone from outside of Barbados maybe ever again. And the only representation they get is on TV, right? And this is your moment to like really connect. So it works both ways, right? You're bettering, everybody's a better person. So that's what I love about your conference and that edition, right? But it does add so well to that self-awareness part, because it can be uncomfortable to be in a different culture. It can be uncomfortable to have to see things that aren't like what happens around you in your hometown, and to have to think about that. And it can really help you grow. And I really love that, right? So tell us more about, and we did a tour of the country, like we did all kinds of stuff, but tell us more about the conference. What can people expect? When is it happening? What are the logistics of it? Like, why should members of the Women's Business Garden go to this conference? Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so the conference is going to be November 14th to 19th this year, and we kind of extended the time as well. We actually extended the conference itself from one day, because we have the conferences one day, and then the other days we were doing exploring. So we've extended the conference to 2 days, and this is something that the participants have been asking for since year one. So they're pretty excited now that we're having a 2-day conference. And the other things that we're going to be doing, we're going to be actually doing a surprise cultural immersion event as well too. We're not talking about it. You're not going to know about it until we get there. Yes, but it's going to be fun. And this was actually not my idea. This idea came out from the reviews. So after the conference, I had reviews, and then I had some one-on-ones with people who completed the reviews, and they gave some tremendous ideas. And I'm all about taking information from the reviews and putting it into improving the conference, So this is actually an idea from one of the participants, and different participants came together and they tweaked, and they've come up with something fantabulous. Let's just say that.
Oh, that's amazing. So for people who might be like, Barbados, and this is going to be like, I don't know anybody to go with. I don't really know other members of the Women's Business Garden. I don't know if this is the right event for me to go to as a first-time event. Like, what would you tell them?
This is awesome, because we had a situation like that last year, You're coming to the perfect place. And I'll tell you one thing. One of the things that we do, we meet you at the airport. Okay. So you don't have to worry. We meet you at the airport. There's a sign and everything. So you come through customs, come through immigration. We also have, there's also a package that you can get if you want, where someone can actually bring you through, walk you through immigration and customs as well too. All right. So we're out there waiting for you. There's transportation waiting for you. So you don't have to come out and I'll try to get a taxi and wonder if it is safe and all of that. We provide all of the transportation logistics for you. So you don't ever have to be worrying about having to get a taxi to go anywhere. Okay. So we want to create a safe environment, a safe atmosphere, just so that you can have fun. And so let me see what else. So we have.
Well, and where in Barbados is it going to be? I mean, Barbados is huge, but it's still big. So where in Barbados will it be?
Well, we're going to be at the Radisson this year. We're going to be at the Radisson. And let me tell you, oh my goodness, that's probably the best beach on the entire island.
Yes, it is. I will confirm that. Yes.
Yes, definitely the best beach on the island. As a matter of fact, we were at the Hilton last year, and we had some people who were staying at the Hilton, and we did have some people who were staying at the Radisson. And a lot of the people from the Hilton came over to the Radisson for the beach.
Yes.
Right? Because the beach is so much better there. So yeah, the beach is beautiful. It is wonderful. And they actually have a pier where you can sit and dine as well too. So you are actually in the water as you are dining. It's beautiful.
And it's very easy to become self-aware and do a lot of reflection when you're sitting on the beach or you're sitting overlooking the water and you're calm and you're peaceful, right? So, so the Radisson in Barbados, it's it's a great event for people who haven't been before. And what can they expect? I mean, I said cultural, I said some speakers, but tell us a little more about what the actual event will hold for.
All right. So the one thing that you can expect to make meaningful connections. That's a very big thing for us. Okay. And we kind of create the atmosphere, but it allows you then to make those meaningful connections with people that you meet. And one of the things that I've seen coming out of the conference last year, I've seen people move to another level. I looked at Rita, for example, her social media, and that has gone to another level. I've seen great changes there, and some other people as well too. And straight away I was able to see, look, they've brought what they learned back in Barbados, all the creative things that they came up with, all of what was shared with them, like in the mastermind, and they brought it back and they put it into practice. And you can see the change. You definitely can see the change.
I will say the attendees are a lot of implementers, right? A lot of doers. You're going to be, if you're ever like, well, I go to conferences and I get a lot of good information and then I come home and I never do anything. This is not one of those conferences.
Right, exactly.
All the support and motivation you need to actually do what you're wanting to accomplish as a result of being there.
Yes, that's very true. And this year, for example, last year we did like follow-ups with people as well too. We had, for example, a self-awareness session, and we were able to do a follow-up on that as well too, because we want to make sure we just don't want people to come and just feel motivated for the moment. We are all about meaningful change, making lasting change.
I love that. Meaningful change. Yeah. And it's not just speaker after speaker. Like I said, it is speakers with discussions, and then it's got networking moments, and then it has some hot seat masterminding time to help you kind of grow as a person or a business. And it really does have like the cultural piece, right? It really is a whole experience and a whole immersion, right? And if enough Women's Business Garden members go, guys, we're going to have our own little, not that I want to pull everybody away from the conference, but we're going to try to have our own moment, right? Where we can connect as Women's Business Garden members as well, because we are kind of unique in that we will all be kind of coming from the same community and the same place. And so we had a few members of the Women's Business Garden go last year. This year, we're really hoping for more. That's why Women's Business Garden became kind of like a partner and a friend and family of this conference, right? Because I know the difference that it can make, and I really stand behind what it can do. So if people are interested in learning more, Karen, about it, and really, understanding, how they can register and what's available to them as members of the Women's Business Garden and what they can choose from and do, where do they go? How do they find out more information?
Good. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to make them an offer or pre-launch offer that we had earlier up in the year. I think it ended like in February or something like that, but we're going to make that available to them.
Yay!
So that that they.
Yes, that's amazing. I'm gonna interrupt just to say this. Like, and I've said this before, but Karen is like a master negotiator. to planning an event. I sat down at a table last year and heard her negotiating with one of the like hotels, and I was just like, wow. I mean, I know event planners are good, but like good, great, right? And so the rates, I know people are always concerned, well, out of the country in a resort, and how these are negotiated rates that are so amazing that Chuck and I last year actually stayed extra and stayed through Thanksgiving. And we're doing it again this year, right? A, we just loved Barbados and the people. B, I mean, the rates were too good for us to not extend. So the fact that you're extending a launch price that has already ended, like, thank you very much for that. And I think that Women's Business Card members, I know they will appreciate that. So where do they go? Like, do they email you? Is there a website? Are we going to provide that to them?
Yes, I'm going to send you a video. I'm going to send you the video with the pre-launch information. It's going to have all of the pre-launch information. That way they can make informed decisions. And at the end of that, it will also tell them where they can go as well too. Yes.
Great. No, I love it. So thank you again so much for being here. I'm so excited for November. I can't wait. It's going to be here so quickly. And you are a member of the Women's Business Garden. So if anybody has questions, feel free to tag Karen, right? You can tag her in the comments here, or tag her in a separate post. She'll check it. We'll make sure you get in touch with her. And we'll be giving you guys a lot more information. So Karen, is there anything that you want to say in closing?
Well, yeah, I just want to say, it's always good to be talking to people about the conference. This is where my heart is. I'm all about change, and making things happen for other people. So Rita, I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And I just want to say to everybody, just relax. It's just to get there. Once you get there, you are not going to regret a single moment. We had people that came last year. They were so afraid. They weren't sure what to expect. Well, you should hear them now. They are our biggest supporters. They will talk to anybody right now about coming to the conference. So you are in good company. If you've never traveled before, if you've never gone out of the United States, you are in great company. Okay. And we can't wait to see you.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Karen, and have a great night. And everyone in Women's Business Garden, I hope that you'll consider coming, and thank you for watching this. And let's really work on our resiliency skills in general and see how it uplevels our business. So thank you again, Karen. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.